In the morning when I wake up, I put on my makeup and do a little best ball draft for you.
Well, you're walking and talking and freaking and yelling and bossing and speaking and looking at a boy. No one tells what to do with your high top shoes and your wavy toes with the black shorts. So don't let 'em get away. Don't think they can play and nail 'em to the wall because you really need to stay. Gotta go straight, they back up, leave my right back, turbo jacket. He's fast, well, you're walking and talking, but he's faster than me. Shout my walkie-talkie man. Last night at the show, well, you're walking and talking.
Mota Zitabanakesti! Welcome into another edition of the Worst Fantasy Show. I am your host with the least, Jack Lucene. Y'all know the drill by now. This show is grassroots, fan-driven, organic, like a fucking avocado toast. The only way we're growing this is if you guys help support the show. So please, super kick that subscribe button and send in questions, themes, shit you want to see on the show. You can hit me up at Jack Lucene on Twitter, or you can send emails to worstsportschannel@gmail.com. Today on the show, I am very excited to do a weekly winners draft on Underdog Best Ball. So just a reminder, this show and myself, not sponsored by Underdog, not affiliated with Underdog. The only thing I do is play a lot on Underdog because up in Canada, our gambling options in terms of like the apps that we can access. So for example, I don't think I can do, I'm pretty sure I can't do DraftKings, and there's a couple others that don't work for me. So Underdog, very happy that it works up here in Quebec, Canada, where I live. But weekly winners specifically, my favorite contest that I participated in last year, I did win a little bit of money, not a lot. It was a couple $100, but it was right around the time that I was going to Sault Ste. Marie to get married. So very convenient timing to have. I think I won like $300 on a weekly winner. It was the week that DJ Moore and Justin Fields blew up. So, you know, weekly winners, the idea that you get a chance to win every single week. The top prize every single week is $20,000. You can win multiple weeks. So we are going to be drafting a weekly winners, looking at some strategies for this. More specifically, in weekly winners best ball drafts as compared to other drafts, I don't tend to focus as much on creating stacks. So for example, in like Best Ball Mania, or in the Puppy, in the Chihuahua, and a lot of these other contests, I find stacking, cuts both ways. Yes, obviously, if you have a stack from a good team. So last year, the Best Ball Mania team that I had advance was stacked with all 49ers pretty much. I had Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel. Or it might have been Brandon Ayuk. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is, I had a stack from a winning team on a great roster with a lot of talent and a great coach. It's like, I don't know that I necessarily would have been as happy. Like, for example, if you had the Lamar Mark Andrews stack, that didn't pan out as well last year. The Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce stack didn't pan out as well. There were lots of stacks that didn't work out. Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, like none of those, even down the stretch. You look at Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, you look at AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. All of those stacks really faded down the stretch. And then you had unexpected stacks that kind of went away for a while and then resurged late in the season. So, for example, Justin Fields and DJ Moore definitely had their struggles early, and then Justin Fields got injured. But then towards the latter half of the season, they were absolutely crushing it. So weekly winners, because again, it really comes down to you're playing every single week. This is definitely where I will try to create super stacks of, I'll try to pick out 2 to 4 teams that I really, really like. And we are going to try and target players from that team so that basically we can have situations where we just need both teams to go off the same week, and then we have a potential of winning a weekly winners. So we are officially filled, and we will begin this weekly winners draft. Let me just share my screen here. Whoops. That is not what I was trying to press. All right. And here we go. And we are at 111. God damn it. I fucking hate the 111. I think my two least favorite draft picks, regardless of what the draft is, always for me is going to be 1-2 and 111. I really, all the other picks, not as bad, but I fucking hate being at the 1-2 because then when it comes back around, you're always going to get this guy taking 2 picks. And then you're always going to, I'm always going to have King J the fourth here taking 2 picks between mine. And I would much rather have the back-to-back picks as opposed to split. So we get the dirty 111. Christian McCaffrey goes off the board. So we're going to have to start building our strategy right away here. So I think Philadelphia is definitely a team that I want to target. We're just going to go ahead and put Philadelphia players in our queue right away and kind of see how they fall to us. Jalen Hurts still going very high. Now, the problem with Philadelphia, obviously, you're paying a high amount of draft capital to get those stacks. Even Devonta Smith should be right around here somewhere. Here he is. And Jamar Chase going next. Tyreek Hill. And you're going to see people will take, more of the spike week potential from a Jamar Chase, a Tyreek Hill, as opposed to an Amon-Ra St. Brown, because, again, we are drafting a weekly winners. We'll see how the board falls to us. Detroit might be another stack that we want to look for. I really don't have a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. in any formats, but this might be one where we start looking at a Cardinal stack as well. Cardinals, Miami is another one, but Tyreek is already off the board. And I have never been I love Jalen Waddle as a talent, but I feel like his upside is capped because obviously you have Tyreek Hill and that run game to compete with. To me, it's, I struggle to see him really truly breaking beyond top 10. If he finishes at 11 or 12, that's a great season for Jalen Waddle, but it's not what I'm looking for in the weekly winner. We're definitely going to want to get some spike week guys. So, some older players like Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans. Those are all guys that can pop big games anytime. From the running back position, possibly Derrick Henry for all those touchdowns. Sam Laporta, we might want to go tight end early. That's something I haven't done at all. I have 0% Sam Laporta this year. It's just, to me, it doesn't make sense in other formats to draft him because, again, you can wait and get equally good tight ends a little bit later. We're officially on the board here. We're gonna go with Philadelphia. We're gonna go with AJ Brown. Agreed to a 3-year extension. On a bad year last year, had 1,500 yards and I think 7 touchdowns. So, assuming that they right the ship a little bit, I like that. I like AJ Brown there. And then, I wonder if Saquon is going to make it to us, or if we should even take both. Because generally speaking, you don't necessarily want to stack a running back and wide receiver from the same team because it definitely feels like it's capping your upside. So I actually think if he were to make it to us, I would take Jahmyr Gibbs over Saquon. We might have to pivot entirely. I don't know if I want to reach as far down as Devontae Adams here. Oh, perfect. King J the fourth helped me out. He took Saquon. We'll go ahead and take Jahmyr Gibbs. And that's a perfect 1-2 punch to start this draft. I love that. We get A.J. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs off the bat. And again, those are two guys absolutely capable of spike week potential. Now, quarterbacks, I wonder if in this format, quarterbacks might get pushed down the board and we have the possibility of taking Jalen Hurts. If not, we're going to have to definitely look at how we're going to be able to pivot. And again, you know, wide receivers like Stephon Diggs and DJ Moore with the spike week potential. I do really like Travis Kelce and a bounce back this year, but again, in this format, I think I'm going to look elsewhere. Lamar is very interesting because when Lamar has his week breaking weeks, it can be, you know, a 40, 50 point banger. And he has some upgraded weapons now in Devontae Walker and Derrick Henry out of the backfield. That should be very interesting. I like DK Metcalf here. See, like Malik Neighbors, I love the talent, but I just don't see spike week potential when you have fucking Danny Dimes throwing the ball. So that doesn't make any sense to me. We'll throw Travis Etienne in the queue here. And we can see guys going off the board up here. Drake London, Devon Achane, and Nico Collins. We can still potentially get a Arizona stack if we want to wait and get Trey McBride. I really like Josh Jacobs in Green Bay as well. See, like Stroud in this format, I just don't see Stroud having really like consistent 40 or 50 point performances or even the real huge spike week potential that we're looking for. Like I would rather take Anthony Richardson and hope that he has a monster week. Stroud is kind of more of like that consistent pocket passer that's going to get 300 yards a game, 2 to 3 touchdowns a game. He doesn't really have the rushing upside that you would be looking for, again, from when you're looking for pure spike week potential. George Pickens, I love T. Higgins. Never been a huge T. Higgins guy, but he does have, again, it's like T. Higgins seems to get it all in 1 week when it happens. So I don't mind putting him in the list there. Amari Cooper, same thing. Mark Andrews. I love James Cook. In every format this year, I'm going to be drafting a lot of James Cook. I feel like they are designing that offense of the Buffalo Bills to run primarily through him and Dalton Kincaid. So I really love James Cook. And his value at an ADP still going in the 5th round, I feel like that's way too low for a guy that I consider to be the starting running back there. You know, I don't think Ray Davis and Frank Gore Jr. and Latavius Murray and all these, you know, backups are really a threat to his role in this offense. It feels like they're true backups. Ooh, Lamar Jackson goes. Jalen Hurts is still kicking around on the board. Sam Laporta. I don't think Hurts is going to make it to us. There's Diggs. We got Debo. How many picks now between us? 4 picks left between us. It definitely feels like Hurts is going to get swiped heavy on us. If that happens, I think I'll just go with DJ Moore or DK Metcalf because, again, I'm looking for that spike week potential. And we want to load up on wide receivers because another thing that's key to remember here is when we look down here, this is 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, and a flex. So, yes, you can have the running back as a flex, but we want to stack on those wide receivers especially. Again, the only way that we're going to pivot to quarterback is if Jalen Hurts doesn't get picked here between BLWU and Mr. Wizzy. Mr. Wizzy! Come on. Fuck. Oh, I hate this feeling. Don't get sniped. Don't get sniped. Oh, Travis Etienne. We got one more here. This is like the ultimate now. It's like if we get sniped here, I'm gonna fucking yes. Whoa! Jalen Hurts falls to us. That's fucking perfect. I love that. That was beautiful. Jalen Hurts stacked with A.J. Brown, and we got Jahmyr Gibbs as our primary running back. I love this draft already. Oh, and you know what? We're still going to get DJ Moore because we want that spike week wide receiver potential, like I said. And even though DJ Moore, it feels like they'll trade off weeks here and there, I do think DJ Moore is still going to have some monster weeks. I was also considering Trey McBride there. The issue with McBride is it would be really hard for me to ignore Kyler in the 6th. And that feels like we're taking our 2 quarterbacks really early, both in the NFC. Don't know how much I was in love with that idea. So I like that. I love this team so far. Jalen Hurts, Jahmyr Gibbs, DJ Moore, and A.J. Brown. That's solid. That's definitely, again, we are talking about the potential for all 4 of those guys to just go off and have a huge week. Very possible. And so far, this is, again, all in the NFC with Philadelphia, Detroit, and Chicago. Chi-Town. The Windy City, baby. Sorry, it's really early in the morning here. I should have done this last night, but I had 2 shows yesterday. I was doing like interview shows. And so this one got pushed to this morning. And yeah, I'm a little worse for wear, let's just say. So we got Dalton Kincaid goes off the board. T. Higgins is next. We still got a little bit of a wait here until our next pick. So we're just going to keep adding people to the queue at this point. We need to really, that's one of my biggest things is I always, especially when I'm doing these shows, I can definitely get lost in the sauce a little bit and find myself talking through like the draft board and then find myself on the clock and not knowing who to pick and getting auto drafted. If I'm going to get auto drafted, I want to at least take players from the list that I want and not the list that not just the general auto draft list. And again, you might be seeing me add guys like an Alvin Kamara or a George Kittle. Those are, again, spike weeks. We're looking for big spike weeks. Calvin Ridley. See, Kyler Murray going as the quarterback 8 is an incredible value. If I had not gone with Jalen Hurts, I think, a very suitable backup plan would have been to take the wide receiver there, get Trey McBride with that next pick, and then pick up Kyler Murray a little bit later to pair him with Trey McBride. So I don't hate that at all. And in this format, we really don't want too many rookies, especially because rookies traditionally can, take time to acclimate to the NFL. You may not get their true spike weeks until the last half of the season, and that's fine in other formats. But in this format, again, we are very much focused on a week-to-week performance. We want the maximum amount of points per week possible. A lot of guys going off the board that I really like right now, which is making me sad. James Cook. Oh, no, James Cook. Going in the 5th, though, is such a great value. We're definitely going to just keep peppering some wide receivers here. I'm not super enamored with the tight ends. We might, you know what? George Kittle is interesting, though I might just wait and get Evan Ingram. I do like Jake Ferguson as a sneaky tight end also. We are definitely going to have to get some running backs involved in this too. So let's add Zamir White in. Let's add in David. David Montgomery, though, we already have Jahmyr Gibbs, so that doesn't really make sense. Then we're just taking all of Detroit's backfield. Aaron Jones then as a pivot. Mostert. Colonel Mostert. And we are back on the clock. Oh, look at that. Kyler Murray would have got swiped right in front of us. That kind of makes me feel happy. You know what? Terry McLaurin feels like he's being super underrated. I mean, he's finally got a real quarterback under center in Jaden Daniels. So that should boost his value. And if Xavier Worthy were to get picked, we can just pivot and take Marquise Brown. I think I'm starting to come around a little bit on Xavier Worthy. I really had fears about him potentially as being pegged as like a kick return, but we're actually going to take Alvin Kamara here because Kamara still very much has his role cemented on that offense, and we need another running back with spike week potential to pair with Gibbs. I like the receiving upside. So we're going to go with Alvin Kamara there. We've got so far Jalen Hurts, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, and then A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, and Terry McLaurin as our wide receiver group. I am loving this draft so far. This is falling perfectly right now. And we see Keon Coleman and Christian Kirk go off the board. I'm going to scroll down here. Chris Godwin, I like. Especially Chris Godwin should be moving back into the slot. He should definitely have some nice games. James Conner. Again, James Conner probably not going to make the entire regular season. Definitely going to have some spike week games. Zach Moss is like the only game in town right now for the Bengals. Deontay Johnson, Tony Pollard. Deontay Johnson. That one, I don't know if I like that one, actually. Let's take that out. If for some reason we miss on tight ends, David Njoku to me is the last teardrop of like good tight end that you want on your team. So make sure that if you find yourself getting around to this Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson range, that you're either taking one of those tight ends or knowing that, okay, David Njoku is going to be the next like big tier break after that. Because you look after David Njoku, yes, Brock Bowers is a potential rookie, but rookie tight ends also historically not great. TJ Hawkinson coming off injury. Dallas Goedert has never done a goddamn thing in his career. Look it up. He's the most mid tight end that's ever existed, and he gets overdrafted every year, it feels like, just because he's on the Eagles. Finally, I feel like tight end 13 is not bad draft capital, but he was going higher than that last year. And he's just never in his entire career has he passed like 800 yards or even like 8 to 10 touchdowns. Like, it's ridiculous. All right. Joe Burrow goes off, and we're at the top of the 7th round. We're going to take a very short break here, and I will be right back. Apologies, folks. Just call me Ace Ventura because nature called. And we are back. David Montgomery, Jordan Addison, Ramondre Stevenson, the last couple picks off the board. We did not miss anything. We're coming up on the 7th round here, and still a lot of quality picks available here. Those tight ends did dry up on us though while I was gone, so I actually think our next pick, we're gonna have to reach a little bit. Yeah, there's Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson. So the tight end's definitely going earlier than ADP, and that's something to be wary of. And also, King J the fourth here has no tight end. We're not going to risk him taking our tight end. We are going to go ahead and just take David Njoku, who I mentioned again, to me is like the tier break before you get to Brock Bowers and then whatever the fuck. And so ideally, could take another running back, but I actually think I really like Chris Godwin in this spot. If King J the fourth doesn't take him, I think that's what we're going to do. If not, of course he takes Chris Godwin. Bastardo. It's like he could hear me talking. That's okay. We'll take Mostert or James Conner, whichever one he doesn't end up taking. Yeah, I don't know which one I like more though, Raheem Mostert or James Conner. Feels like Mostert is still secure in that role, but they drafted Jalen Wright, and yes, they brought in Trey Benson, so it's kind of the same thing. But James Conner feels like the starter until he's not. We're gonna go with Raheem the Dream though. We're gonna go with Raheem. I like Raheem Mostert in that offense. Definitely, you talk about spike week potential. That's what we're getting from him. So I like that pick. That's interesting. Jaden Daniels as a quarterback option, as a second quarterback option, if you were to slide to us to pair with Terry McLaurin. That's potentially interesting. I mean, if Brock Bowers makes it back to us, why not? Austin Eckler, I like. Tua. I really like Tua as a quarterback value. You talk about, they didn't just bring in Jalen Wright. They also got Malik Washington, who is an upgrade at that third wide receiver spot. That could be very interesting. Gus Edwards, Gus Edwards is a gross one, but you talk about a guy that's just going to get touchdowns. Lockett. Tyler Lockett is just perennially undervalued, and it feels like he can just have a week whenever. Rashid Shaheed, spike week potential. Devin Singletary is like the only running back in town basically right now. Justin Herbert as QB 17 is such a hilarious overreaction. And that's also the reason I didn't want to take a second quarterback early, is because like the fact that we could get Justin Herbert as our second quarterback at QB 17 is just patently ridiculous. Zeke is going to have value in these in this type of format. Blake Corum is interesting because if God forbid anything happens to Kyren Williams, he's definitely going to step into that role and have the same kind of potential spike weeks as a Kyren Williams. So that's definitely someone we want to keep an eye on. Dontavian Wicks, Quentin Johnston. As much as I'm not a huge fan of Quentin Johnston, if he were to make a year two leap, he has a huge opportunity and path in front of him. Jalen Wright, if we want to back up our Raheem Mostert pick, we could take Wright late. Ben Sinnott, I like as a potential rookie tight end and a backup that's worth some value. Roman Wilson, absolutely. I feel like is going to have a role in that Steelers offense. You look at the Steelers wide receiver room after George Pickens and Roman Wilson, it's a fucking joke. Again, Kendre Miller, it's like I don't want to just grab the handcuff to the running back that we already have. I do definitely want to diversify. So that's like where I would take a Ray Davis potentially, because yes, I love James Cook. James Cook's role, I feel like, is secure in that offense as the running back between the tens. But once you get down into that small goal line area of the 5-yard red zone goal line offense, that's where they're going to definitely want Ray Davis, Frank Gore Jr., those types of running backs. I mean, Jalen Polk, he was drafted to be the starter. I know historically the Patriots have not done well with their first or second round wide receiver rookie picks, and so it could very well end up being Javon Baker, who I also really like. But we're going to throw him in the queue just for shits and giggles. Yeah, now we're getting down into the deep waters of this draft, but that's going to come a little bit later. Let's scroll back up. So we're going to be on the board pretty soon here, soon-ish anyways. And we'll just recap, look at the team a little bit. Let's go look at the whole draft board. Let's kind of see who our competition is. That's something I always like to do. I always like to see how some of these other teams stack up. So catching my eye right away, right here, JB Siege was able to get Christian McCaffrey, and then at that 2-3 turn, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes just sitting right there for him. Ooh, he took Mark Andrews also. That's an interesting strategy. This guy's got no wide receivers. Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones. Yeah. Najee Harris. So yeah, JBCs, you were doing so well, and then this is where you went wrong. Mark Andrews pick. You already had Travis Kelce. There really was no reason to make the Mark Andrews pick there. You needed wide receiver, and then I can understand if you wanted to take a running back between Mixon and Aaron Jones. I would not have taken both. Definitely needed another wide receiver. Taking Joe Burrow there, I don't see how that really serves that much of a purpose. Like, your wide receiver one cannot be Jameson Williams in this format. You're not going to win that much. We're on the board. You know what? We are going to take our second quarterback. It's going to be the only other quarterback we take, and we're going to take Tua. Because I think Tua, with the weapons that he has around him, definitely has massive spike week potential. And it's kind of an interesting stack. Rarely do I want the quarterback running back stack, but with Raheem Mostert, I don't hate it. And we're feeling very balanced right now. I think I want a wide receiver. I'm torn between Tyler Lockett and Rashid Shaheed. We're going to take Lockett. I have a feeling about Hot Lockett this year. Restructured his deal with Seattle. Just feels like, he's going to be on pace for another 1,000-yard season. In a redraft format, I would probably end up trading him away after, especially if he has a hot start to the season at all. If he's good for the first 4 weeks, I would definitely look to trade him and upgrade, like him in pieces to upgrade, but I don't mind the pick there. And we're feeling very balanced. I love building balanced teams. And we have our 2 quarterbacks that we're locked in. We can take quarterbacks even just right off the board at this point. And I'll probably grab another tight end, but I'm, David Njoku, pretty solid. I don't feel like I have to have a bunch of tight ends, but I'm loving this wide receiver room right now and this running back room. So I'm feeling very, very good about this team. Now, see, Justin Herbert's ADP, even though he was quarterback 17, he did not go there. He was drafted ahead of Trevor Lawrence. Again, he's not that much higher than ADP, though. The fact that he went in the 10th round, crazy. Considering last year where you had to take Justin Herbert, he was one of the, upper echelon quarterbacks that you were having to take in like the rounds 5 to 7, depending when and where you drafted. There goes Rashid Shaheed, Romeo Dobbs. I feel like I want more wide receivers, especially just in my queue. I don't think. Oh, Gabe Davis is a hilarious pick. That's the kind of guy I would never want on my actual fantasy team, but 100% in this format where I don't have to know when to start him. I can just have him as my 5th wide receiver, and if he has that 200-yard game, fuck yeah. Oh, the Muth is a sneaky underrated tight end as well. Put him in the list. Not that enamored with a lot of the names that come after, so we might have to take a tight end with this next pick, actually. No, we can wait. I think we can wait. We're going to play that game of waiting on the tight end. You know what the thing is about tight end, too, is I really love Ja'Tavion Sanders. He is one of my, to me, he's still the 2nd-rated rookie tight end, even ahead of Sinnott, even though Sinnott was drafted much higher. I feel like Ja'Tavion Sanders has a more natural skill set from the tight end position, whereas like Sinnott is more of a hybrid fullback tight end. If they use him properly, Sinnott will have more value, but I really like Ja'Tavion Sanders and the potential he has in that young Carolina Panthers offense. Well, young except for Adam Thielen. All right, we're a couple picks away here. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I feel like I could just take, whoever I want at this point. Uh, we've got a very natural 2-3-4-1 build going. Devin Singletary goes off the board. I might have considered that. Quentin Johnston, I think, again, very interesting as a bounce back candidate. And I wouldn't necessarily want to know when to have to start him, but to just rely on spike week potential. Man, did you see T-Bucks? Some of these builds that these other guys are doing, very interesting. Like, let's go look at T-Bucks. Took Bijan Robinson, and then wide receiver, 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 running back, running back. So that's very interesting way to build. Definitely give yourself a lot of chances at filling those wide receiver spots on a weekly basis. So I like that a lot. But going to be interesting to see who he ends up getting as a quarterback tight end at this point that can be viable. I bet, having taken Bijan and Drake London, I'm guessing Kirk Cousins is going to end up being his quarterback. And we are on the clock. Oh, man. A little bit of a reach. No, we're going to go with Quentin Johnston here. We're going to take the chance on a bounce back from Quentin Johnston. And then this is where I am going to reach a little bit. I believe so wholeheartedly in Roman Wilson in that Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Very rarely am I going to be like targeting a rookie, but we have a pretty veteran wide receiver room. So I'm going to take Roman Wilson there. I like that a lot. We'll see now. First of all, let's see how many picks we even have left. 18 rounds. We're in round 12. So we just made a pick. So that means we're going to have 13 to 18. So 5 picks left. So out of 5 picks with what I already have, we're going to want probably 2 running back. I think I might go 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end. Slight possibility I add a 3rd quarterback in. Generally, I don't like to do that, though. Oh, is it Cincy Kid who we were looking at that had? Oh man, T-Bucks, you got swiped so hard, T-Bucks. T-Bucks definitely was gonna take Kirk Cousins there, almost guaranteed. And then Cincy Kid took him, and he had to settle for Trevor Lawrence instead. So that fucks up his Falcon stack that he was going for. And Jalen Wright, Dontavian Wicks. So again, let's take a look at some of these other teams. Who do we really like? I can only see 10 of them, though. What the fuck? Oh, here we go. We got a max. Okay, I'm just going to change this real fast for you guys. Because it opened a different window. Here we go. Here's our full draft board. Oh, what the hell? I still can't see the 12th guy. Is there... Oh, there, I got it. Figured it out. Okay. All right. So let's look at, see. I'll just make sure I am not on the clock. Okay. So I really like Tom picks here. Amon-Ra, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, stacked with CJ Stroud. So it doesn't matter which of the wide receivers goes off. And then he stacks Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks with Jordan Love. Spike week potential in Curtis Samuel, Zach Moss, Tyjae Spears, Rashad White. So this is a decent, but I like Tom picks here. Ingle X. I don't hate it. Ingle X. I like what you did. Going with that San Francisco stack. I see it. Debo, George, and Brock Purdy-licious. And then getting Devin Singletary and Jalen Wright. So definitely some good competition here. Oh, here we go. Mr. Wizzy with the Arizona build that we were talking about potentially targeting. Took Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, Kyler Murray. Love that. Love that. And James Conner. So yeah, definitely some tough competition in these streets. But I am definitely very much enamored with our build so far. So we will close that and switch back to our regular scheduled program. Here we go. Oh, Rico Dowdle. Getting into some fun names now. Kendre Miller off the board. Yeah, we are in the nitty of the gritty. But honestly, a lot of times these are where you're gonna find your late value, and these guys can a lot of times help you win some weeks. So let's throw some guys in the queue. Adam Thielen just getting ignored. I get it, but J.K. Dobbins. If Dobbins is healthy, he could very well be the starting running back for the Chargers, even above Gus Edwards, who would be more of like their goal line and like trudging type back. Man, the fall of grace for Deshaun Watson. Antonio Gibson. I don't hate it. This is getting in towards like the end. Oh, Zay Jones. That's a sneaky one. I like that. That's going to be a definite sleeper pick for this type of format. Because you talk about Zay Jones, the ultimate spot starter. Justin Fields is interesting because if he ends up getting that job, he has, again, spike week potential. I said at the top of the show, I won last year, not like a huge chunk of change, but I won a couple $100 because I had Justin Fields and DJ Moore stacked. And on that week that it was like the week DJ Moore had like 200 yards and like 2 touchdowns or something like that. You know what? We're going to go with Sinnott. I like Sinnott. It gives us kind of a weird Washington stack. I like Troy Franklin here. I mean, he's got his college quarterback. There's not a lot going on the depth chart in front of him besides like Marvin Mims. It is Marvin Mims. And Cortland Sutton. So maybe that quarterback to the rookie connection of Bo Nix and Troy Franklin can transcend from Oregon into the NFL. We'll see. But again, we're wanting to pepper as many wide receivers as we can. Devontae Walker, Tyler Boyd, also potential options for us late. Ja'Tavion Sanders. Though taking Sinnott, I probably won't take Sanders now, even though Sanders could be like my very last pick. Garendo could be very interesting as like a last pick. Same with Brendan Rice. And I don't hate Deonta Foreman. And this very specific format. And Malik Washington too. All right. Getting on towards the end of this thing. This is always the part of the show where I'm like, man, it feels like I'm dying up here a little bit on stage. Ugh. Hunter Hurst Henry goes off the board. Kamani Vidal, Gohan's girlfriend. That's a deep cut reference. Ugh. The only thing that I'm looking at now, we are a little light on running backs. So we are going to want to take some running backs that have potential to just get on the field. And that's why I have guys like, excuse me, Jaleel McLaughlin, J.K. Dobbins, and Antonio Gibson, because those guys will get playing time. Tyrone Tracy Jr., I love him as a deep sleeper. I mean, he's only got Devin Singletary ahead of him, and he actually was a former wide receiver. Kind of had a long path to becoming a running back, so that could be very interesting. And these are, you're taking late shots on these guys anyways, so you just take guys you like at this point. I feel like the crux of our team is already kind of cemented in with Jalen Hurts, Tua, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Raheem Mostert, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett, Quentin Johnston, Roman Wilson, and Troy Franklin, and then David Njoku and Ben Sinnott. The Senator. It's funny because he plays for Washington. We're almost back on the clock here. And then we'll be on to our last two picks after that. We are moving. We are grooving. Oh, let's go TK1. I do like Cincy Kids build. I just feel like they could have gone a little better. King J the fourth too. A little bit light as a quarterback. There we go. That does work. Yeah, Geno Smith as your starting quarterback is not enthralling, but he's got a really good team otherwise. And completed the Seattle stack for him because I saw he got Ken Walker. A lot of similar strategies. It almost makes me think like, maybe that's something I'm going to have to look at actually. One of my things in fantasy football in general is like if everybody's doing the same strategy, then generally speaking, doing the opposite can often have a positive effect on your team and your outcomes. And it's very league specific, but like a more easier example would be like in a dynasty league. So like, for example, I just did a startup draft and it felt like everybody was trying to get like all the youngest players and all the rookies. And, I just kept taking the value that was falling to me. And then it's like all of a sudden I look up and I've got Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs and, a bunch of, and CeeDee Lamb as like my 3 starting wide receiver. Out of the running backs here, we're going to take, we'll take Jaleel McLaughlin. I like McLaughlin as more of like the speedier, pass catchier type player in that offense. Like they really, Audric Estime and Javonte Williams, those are more bruisers. We're going to double up. I'm just going to take Tyrone Tracy. He's my guy. And then we're just done with running backs. It's just that easy. We'll take probably 2 wide receivers with our final 2 picks. Maybe a tight end. So you know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Sanders. Kind of dumb. Oh, Kraft is interesting. again, Darius Slayton is someone that I feel like, as much as I like the idea and potential of a Malik Washington, very possible Malik Washington never does anything. And meanwhile, Darius Slayton just year in, year out has 700 yards. And again, it's like that is not going to help you in redraft formats or even most dynasty formats, unless it's like a super deep dynasty. Like I have a 16 team league where Darius Slayton on some weeks would be a viable starter. But unless you're in a league like that, for the most part, Darius Slayton is the type of guy that easily gets overlooked, especially in these type of tournaments and contests. And yet it's guaranteed points. The whole point of what we're doing here is to accrue as many points as possible. That's literally what the game is to get as many points as possible in a single week. And in the other contests and formats, it's on a season-long basis. So when you're talking about trying to get as many points as possible on a season-long basis, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe you take this rookie hotness that probably doesn't do anything versus this kind of annoying veteran that he's going to get 700 yards and like 5 touchdowns, and that just seems like dog shit for fantasy. But guess what? When it's best ball and those performances are just showing up periodically in your lineup to cover one of your star wide receivers that maybe had a bad week, because every wide receiver has inconsistencies, then all of a sudden you're laughing. And I feel like veteran experience and the points that you accrue with it are way too often ignored in formats like these. So, I'm looking at the board even right now. Demarcus Robinson and Demario Douglas ranked above a guy like Tyler Boyd or a Darius Slayton, who, again, it's like they're going to give you the guaranteed gross production of 5 to 700 yards and 5 to 7 touchdowns. That's what those guys live to do. And in most formats, I don't want that on my fantasy team, but in this very specific format of best ball, yeah, I want guys like that on the end of my roster, because they're going to cover me more often than, the idea of hitting on rookies late. And it happens. Last year I had Puka Nacua as my guy, and that obviously worked out very well for me. But that is that's very few and far between. Do you end up getting rookies that hit like Puka Nacua? You know who else I was really high on was Jalen Tolbert, who just went, and he hasn't done fucking shit in the NFL. So the fact that you would draft Jalen Tolbert there ahead of, again, Tyler Boyd and even some other rookies that I like, that's the one where I'm a little befuddled. But for the purposes of this specific team and build that we've done, I really want Deonta Foreman, though. Now I'm wishing I would not have taken Jaleel McLaughlin. That's okay. Deonta Foreman just feels like definitely going to get he will have at least 1 week with the Browns where he's going to have like 100 yards, like 2-3 touchdowns. Like, you just know it's going to happen. Especially Nick Chubb with the devastating injury. I don't know. I feel like his early part of the season could look a lot like Javonte Williams when he was coming back from his devastating injury. And if that's the case, they're definitely going to lean on Deonta Foreman at the goal line, especially, I think. But there could be games where they end up just saying, hey, you know what, let's kind of take it easy on Nick Chubb here, and let's just feed Deonta Foreman instead. And you still have Jerome Ford mixing in the backfield. It's muddled. It scares me. So I think that's why we're going to settle with Jatavian Sanders. And I really want to take Malik Washington. I just have a kind of a sneaky feeling about Malik Washington out of the slot. And it pairs well with Tua. So we're going to take Sanders, like I said. And because I'm not concerned about King J the Fourth here taking my guy. He goes double quarterback. And we are going to wrap up this team with Malik Washington. And that is it for this draft. Let's just quickly recap. We went ultimately with a pretty balanced build. 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 8 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends. Very comfortable with our quarterbacks in Jalen Hurts and Tua. Very comfortable with our starting running backs in Jahmyr Gibbs and Alvin Kamara. And then we got Raheem Mostert as well. And I don't mind Jaleel McLaughlin and Tyrone Tracy Jr. as sleepers. We are a little bit light on running backs, but that's okay because our real strength is in the wide receiver room. A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett, Quentin Johnson, Roman Wilson, Troy Franklin, and Malik Washington. And then to round out the tight ends, we have David Njoku as more of a veteran presence. And I took the second and third best ranked rookie tight ends in Ben Sinnott and Jatavian Sanders to round it out. And that is it for me and the show. Super appreciate you guys hanging out and drafting this weekly winners with me. Make sure that you follow on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, all that bullshit. Super kick those subscribe buttons, help the algorithm stuff. Send me some questions, some show ideas. If you guys want to see specific stuff on the show, hit me up at Jack Lusney. But until the next time, I will catch all of you guys on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes